Today we're working on section 1.1. So I have picked the objectives in this class and I picked them in order and separated them into chapters. So this first one says word problem involving the surface area of a cylinder. So remind me what area is. It's the size of a flat surface. And sometimes we talk about area of things that aren't quite flat, but a one-dimensional measurement would be a distance. And that's measured in inches, feet, meters, yards, miles, light years, that sort of thing. Okay? If I take one dimension and then I go in another direction and make another dimension, I create a two-dimensional shape which can be measured as an area. And that would be inches squared or meters squared, miles squared. And the reason is, if this was 6 inches and this was 5 inches, the area will tell me how many square inches there are. And how do you find an area? Length times width, base times height, lots of different ways to say that. So I get 5 times 6 is 30. 30 what? Well, it's 5 inches times 6 inches. That gives me a 30, and this gives me inches squared. What does that mean? Inches squared. No. What, Pauline? It means it's the second power, but if I told you something is 30 inches squared, does that make any sense to you? Now, this being 6 inches long makes sense. If I cut that into lengths, I get 6 1-inch lengths. So what does 30 inches squared mean? 30 squares that are, and how big is each square? An inch by an inch. So if I divide this up, and I count all of those squares up, there will be exactly 30. And each square is 1 inch by 1 inch. So 30 square inches, or 30 inches squared, means there are 30 squares that each take up the space of 1 inch by 1 inch. Does that make sense? What if I added another dimension to this? What do we call that space? Volume. And how do we measure volume? So we would do base times height times width, or we could do the area times the depth, however you want to say it. So I would take 30 inches squared and times it by 4 inches, and I get 120 inches cubed. What does that mean? So I would need to what does 120 inches cubed mean? Inch by inch by inch, right? There are 120 blocks inside that picture that are made up of cubes that are an inch by an inch by an inch. So this block right here is one of the 120 cubic inches. Okay? All right. What's next? So, a company makes paper labels for paint cans. As shown below, each can is the shape of a cylinder with a height of 5 inches and a radius of 3 inches. The paper label is wrapped around the can and covers only the side of the can, not the top or the bottom. If the company makes 18 labels, how many square inches of paper will be needed? So, is this an area or a volume problem? It's an area problem. And we need to remember a couple formulas. The circumference of a circle has what formula? 2 pi r. So circumference would be this distance, and radius would be that distance. Area of a circle would be pi r squared. How do you keep those separate in your head? Well, here's how I do it. Circumference is a distance, right? So if I plug 3 inches in there, I'm going to end up with some number that's in inches. But area is a little bit different. Area is going to be units squared. So if I plug 3 inches in there, pi times 3 inches squared, I'm going to end up with something inches squared, right? Inch times inch. So the one that is squared will yield square units, and the one that is not squared will yield non-square units. Can you guys remember that? Okay. So the plan here is to make a label, and the label is going to wrap all the way around the can. Is that an area or a volume? It's an area. Okay. And we know that area is found by doing length times width. So, can we print a circular label on a printer? Not any printer we have here at the school. How are we going to print those labels? Right. If I cut this and then unravel it, I end up with a rectangle. How big is that rectangle? Well, the side is 5 inches, and the top is equal to this distance here, which is called the circumference. Okay, and it wants us to use 3.14 as pi. So this length is c. So 2 times 3.14 times 3. What does that give you? 18.84. So this is 18.84. And how do we find the area? Multiply those two together, and that will tell us how many squares there are inside of that. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's look at same basic idea. Okay. Do you need to see another one of those? So we're going to cut that cylinder into a rectangle. One side is the height of the cylinder, the other side is the circumference of the top, and then multiply those two numbers together and you'll get the area. Okay. Kiko is going to build a large wooden storage box. The box will be in the shape of a rectangular prism. She wants to cover all of the sides of the box with special wallpaper that costs $2 per square foot. How much will the wallpaper cost in total? So are we doing area or volume? We're not going to fill the box up with paper. We're just going to cover the outside of the box with paper. Okay? And we know that the paper costs $2 per square foot. So first, let's figure out, that was the wrong button. Let's figure out how much area the front side is going to take. It would be what? How did you get 42? So that rectangle has a width of 7 and a height of 6. So that would be 42 feet squared. Okay? Now what? Do all the other sides too. So let's do this side. That one is going to be 18 feet squared. Okay, what about this side? That's going to be 7 times 3, which is 21 feet squared. Now what? There's 2 of each of those. This rectangle here is matched with this rectangle here. And this rectangle here is matched with that rectangle there. So I could double each of those and then add it all together. What if I added them all together to start with? Then just multiply that number by 2. So what I'm saying is 2a plus 2b plus 2c is exactly the same as a plus b plus c times 2. So you can either double all of them and add them together, or you can add them all together and then double the answer. Okay? So we do that. What is 42 plus 18 plus 21 times 2? $162 square feet. Is that the answer? No. What does that tell us? So that is how much wallpaper we need. We need enough wallpaper to cover 162 square feet. Well, that's not the answer. How much will the wallpaper cost in total? We need to multiply that by $2 per square foot, and that will tell us the final cost of all the wallpaper. Nice. All right. Next up. Okay. Surface area of a cylinder. So we know how to do the surface area of the label. We just cut that label off, and it has a height of 7, and then the top is going to be 2 times 3.14 times 4. Right? So I need my calculator. If I had my calculator, then I wouldn't have to rely on you guys. So the top of that is going to be 2 times 3.14 times 4 is 25.12. Multiply that by 7, and I get an area of 175.84 square feet. Okay? What is the area of the rest of the can? So we need to figure out what the area of the top is. What is the formula for an area of a circle? Pi r squared. So it would be 3.14 times 4 squared. So 3.14 times 4 times 4 is 50.24. So what's the surface area of the entire can? It's going to be this and this and so will this plus that be enough? No. I have to do another one of those to cover the bottom. So 175.84 plus 50.24 plus 50.24, and I messed it up. Let me try that again. 50.24 plus 50.24. So you're right, 276.32. So the surface area is going to be the rectangular area of the label plus the area of the top plus the area of the bottom. Okay, and there's one more. Find the surface area of this rectangular prism. Okay, so we've done this already. The top, or the front face, this face here, is going to be 42. This face here is 2 times 6, which is 12. And this face here is 2 times 7, which is 14. And then add those together and double it to do the back side of it, of everything. So 136. Okay. If you're not finished with the knowledge check, you'll have to finish that first, but then work on 1.1. If you finish 1.1, then start working on your AlexPy. Okay. Get to work.